But let's just kick it off with this. You're called the B word, you're called bossy. You know, the minute you try to assert yourself, it's a problem.
Yes. Okay. Have you ever been called bossy?
By my kids, but not necessarily at work. I mean, I'm sure they mumble it under their breath, but I'm afraid.
Okay. Yes. So I will say I have been called bossy. I have been called the other B word, too direct, aggressive. I've been called difficult. And here's my favorite one. I've been called disobedient. And yes, this has all been in a work setting. Women oftentimes have a smaller range of acceptable behaviors at work than men. If we are too nice, we are often seen as weak or maybe not as serious. And if we're too aggressive, we are judged as acting too much like a man, which is unfair since often we get labeled as aggressive and bossy and direct when we are simply exhibiting the same behaviors that are seen as positive or even necessary in our male counterparts. And when you're given those labels, it's usually because you didn't do something that somebody else wanted, or you didn't act in a way according to how someone else believes you should, or you're putting your needs first or clearly articulating what you wanted. And you should recognize that such name calling, bossy, the other B word, it actually indicates that you are a strong and passionate person, which is something to be proud of. And there is nothing wrong with being a bold and confident woman who says what we think and asks for what we want.
Beautiful. I mean, it's the good old fashioned double standard.
Yes.
Where do these stereotypes come from?
All negative labels are about someone trying to put you in a box that they believe that you belong in. They put you in your place. And so when we are not as nice or not as quiet as some people want us to be, they try to undermine and devalue us by reducing us to this ugly word or label, which, let's be honest, it's no different than playground behavior when we were kids. And labels like bossy or aggressive originate in the fact that as women, we were brought up to be the good girl. We grow up being encouraged to be nice and to get along. And I even remember in school getting in trouble for being too loud, talking too much. And so very early on as women, the message is to blend in. You fit in, you don't stand out. And boys, by contrast, when they grow up, they're told to stand out and they're praised when they're competitive and outspoken and when they win. And then this continues into adulthood. Women are expected to fit in and not to challenge others. And because it's the water we swim in, we unconsciously accept these terms. And so when we disagree with someone, let's say in a meeting, we may stay silent because we don't want to come across as being difficult or make someone look bad. But that behavior does not serve us well. And it only reinforces the impression that we should be soft spoken or not create conflict. And so when we define those stereotypes and we reject those expectations, when we are strong and confident and bold and assertive, that's when we get those labels.
So, how do we combat it? Because I mean, I'm thinking about a specific incident that happened at work not too long ago with a colleague of mine who is a woman, and she's a boss, and she was afraid to speak up because of retaliation. How do we combat this?
Yeah, I would say there are four things you could try. And the first is just to reclaim the label. If you fear being labeled in this way, you're going to start to lose some of the great qualities that are rightfully yours to exhibit. We have to remember that labels are just words. And when you care less about the word that someone else is putting on you to define you, you're reducing the power that that label has.
Whoa. I mean, whoa, whoa, and stop the presses. That's huge.
Yes, yes, they are just words. And sometimes if you're not going to listen to the negative, you also can't listen to the positive. So there's something about don't let that external force impact your heart. The second thing I'd say is channel your courage. You have every right to present your ideas. Think through what you're going to say, be respectful, and confidently assert yourself. And when it comes down to the choice to either disappoint someone else by speaking your truth or disappointing yourself by hiding the truth, your job is to never, ever disappoint yourself. Speak your truth and be courageous about it. The third thing is talk about it with other women. It can be embarrassing or shameful to share what we've experienced. But when you share your experience with others, not only is there a release in saying the words out loud, but you're also then allowing someone to be able to hold and share that pain with you. And then you never know, people oftentimes go through the same experience. I was on the phone with a woman the other day and I mentioned how I was fired. And she just stopped and said, I've been fired too, but I never said those words out loud. And oh my God, it feels so good to say it out loud. So there is power in claiming your experience and sharing it with others. And then the fourth thing I would say is ask your company to support equity. Ask them, how are you supporting gender equity? What are you doing to support pay equity? How are you supporting leadership representation equity? And are there employee resource groups for women? And ask your employer to step up and participate in creating equity in your company. And there's always going to be people that are intimidated by strength, especially in women. And if someone is small enough to use hurtful words to try to intimidate and put you into submission, that says way more about them than it does about you.
Mic drop. Heather, honestly, thank you for speaking your truth. I mean, to silence your voice would be such a crime, no matter whether you're a woman, a man, or anything else. What you have to say is so valuable, and it makes me sad that, we as women in this Women's History Month, we are still wrestling with these problems.
Yes, and don't forget, women still only make 82 cents to the man's dollar. So we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. And some of the best things we can do as women is to support each other, uplift each other's voices, stand up for each other, give credit where credit is due. And the men in our lives have to also do that so that we can get to a place where equity is real.
And the men wouldn't be here without the women.
Hello. Yes.
All right, that's the biggest truth bomb I've got to offer today. Heather, great to see you. We'll see you again next time in the Joy Corner.
Thanks, guys.
Women's History Month, it should be celebrated every day, all year long. We are just as powerful and equal as anybody else in the workplace, and I encourage you not to succumb to labels and assert yourself with confidence and know that your voice is being heard.